Look what is on the door to this classroom, folks. La Habra High School, room 133. Can't make this stuff up. Ruckus access point inside this room, industrial strength design for 100. All right, folks, this is Joe Imbriano once again. We're at La Habra High School, La Habra, California. And I just wanted to talk to you about a couple things. Look what is on the door to this classroom, folks. La Habra High School, room 133. Can't make this stuff up. Ruckus access point inside this room, industrial strength design for 100. They got money for cameras, though. They got money for cameras and Chromebooks, folks. Irradiation and surveillance. All right, so there it goes. So we're gonna look at this sign here. You can read it, it's a closed campus. You can't loiter here, you can't interfere, disrupt activities, you can't trespass. No alcoholic beverages. Now I wonder how many of the teachers are showing up to work with alcoholic beverages in their system. No weapons on school property. This is really interesting, folks, because I wanted to talk to you about this. No weapons on school property, yet the school district has deployed weapons on school property. The Fullerton Joint Union High School District, after years and years and years, literally 5 years of parents bringing forth scientific evidence that microwave systems in these classrooms causes imminent harm to these children.
Trustees, my name is Diane Hickey, and I'm the parent of a sophomore in the district. I am submitting into the public record facts relative to pulsed microwave radiation and the health of the students and teachers. The following is a quote from a letter addressed to the LAUSD Board of Education from Martha Herbert, MD, PhD.
Parents bringing forth scientific evidence that microwave systems in these classrooms causes imminent harm to these children.
I'm a pediatric neurologist and neuroscientist on the faculty of Harvard Medical School and on the staff of the Massachusetts General Hospital. EMF, RFR from Wi-Fi and cell towers can exert a disorganizing effect on the ability to learn and remember, and can also be destabilizing to immune and metabolic function. This will make it harder for some children to learn, particularly those who are already having problems in the first place.
Parents bringing forth scientific evidence that microwave systems in these classrooms causes imminent harm to these children.
The 1971 Naval Medical Research Institute report, a bibliography on microwave radiation, listed as observed disorders, lack of concentration, anxiety, and loss of memory.
Parents bringing forth scientific evidence that microwave systems in these classrooms causes imminent harm to these children.
The Defense Intelligence Agency 1976 report on biological effects of EMF showed that military personnel exposed to microwave radiation experienced fatigue, irritability, sleeplessness, depression, anxiety, forgetfulness, and lack of concentration. Common health effects that are currently being linked through research are impaired brain function, concentration problems, inability to focus, short-term memory problems, brain fatigue, loss of alertness, brain fog, ADD, ADHD, impaired mental processing, reduction in the ability to form judgments, make decisions, process information, develop intellectually, respond to the environment, acquire and develop insights, make connections, and learn.
Parents bringing forth scientific evidence that microwave systems in these classrooms causes imminent harm to these children.
An associate recently passed on the observation of 22 school nurses in schools where Wi-Fi had been installed for 3 to 4 years. They noted increases in disruptive behavior, sleep disturbances, anxiety, seizures, and more children being diagnosed with ASD, particularly at earlier ages.
Parents bringing forth scientific evidence that microwave systems in these classrooms causes imminent harm to these children.
Students achieving their academic excellence will be clearly compromised with the introduction of wireless radiation. With what is known about EMF exposures and learning, introducing radiation into the school environment is a full yielding of student health and potential scholastic achievement to wireless technology. Your purpose is to provide an environment conducive to learning. Why are you trustees proceeding with the installation of pulsed microwave radiation in classrooms, undermining your very purpose for being here?
Parents bringing forth scientific evidence that microwave systems in these classrooms causes imminent harm to these children.
We're not going to sit here and let you folks run this like your living room anymore, because it's not your living room. It belongs to the taxpayers, and it belongs to the parents, and you're here to educate these children, and you're here to make sure that these children are safe when they're in school. And from your behavior, I have yet to get one email from any of you acknowledging receipt of any of this. The only thing you've said is, we're not going to meet with you, we're not going to meet with this oncologist that wants to Skype in and have a conversation. So, you know, I'm going on 3 years showing up here, missing time out of my family. I'm not going to stop. You're putting defibrillators in, and I'll be honest with you, you're probably going to need them. Because once these systems go in, if they do, against my wishes and all the pleas I've made, you're going to see issues with children possibly dropping dead. Because it's happening. It's happening right now. No one's tracking it. No one wants to find out why it's happening. But you got defibrillators everywhere. Let me tell you something. The blood's going to be on your hands for ignoring this. We have the leading integrative cardiologist in the United States, Dr. Sinatra, totally warning against what you're doing. Putting high-powered access points in with 35 devices, and add those emissions to the 35 devices that are already in the class against school policy that teachers aren't enforcing. All the kids got their cell phones on all day. Those things are pulsing away. They're in there texting each other, playing their little games on them. No one's enforcing that. So now we're going to go to 70 wireless devices in the classroom. And Dr. Singer, you're the father of the microwave soldier. You know all about this stuff. We've presented you with plenty of information, sir, and you've been in utter denial. I'll pick this up at the end of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Has been ignored by the school board and the principals and all of the people that work at these schools, because this information has gone out far and wide throughout the district.
Good evening, trustees. My name is Diane Hickey. I'm the parent of a sophomore. I am submitting into the public record facts relative to wireless radiation and the health of the students and teachers. My previous comments addressed how microwave radiation adversely affects learning. In addition to the governmental reports already cited is the 1981 NASA report entitled Electromagnetic Field Interactions with the Human Body, Observed Effects and Theories. On page 30, table 11 is listed. Headaches, nervous tension, mental depression, memory impairment, dizziness, and fatigue. Effects of microwave radiation are the antithesis of an optimal learning environment. The May 2015 Canadian Medical Association Journal reported that Health Canada's wireless limits are a disaster to public health. The journal interviewed multiple international experts in radiation and cancer who warned that the microwave radiation levels allowed in Canadian classrooms, residences, and workplaces are a disaster to public health. So why should we care about Canada's wireless limits? The answer is that they are essentially the same as our FCC limits here in the United States.
Parents bringing forth scientific evidence that microwave systems in these classrooms causes imminent harm to these children.
A recent news story from Canada reports on 2 teachers' unions wanting Wi-Fi to be banned in area schools, citing the thousands of science studies demonstrating adverse health effects, including electrohypersensitivity. Another recent story out of Canada is a student's appeal from students for the government to step in and protect students. A quote from one of the students, "I did not consent to this level of risk. The school board has been informed that our Wi-Fi system puts us at risk of infertility and breast cancer, but it's choosing not to protect us." Lastly, on March 23rd, I sent a letter to the district chairperson of technology, Mr. Knowles, to share with him the information that I've shared with you trustees for the past couple of years on this emerging public health crisis. You trustees were carbon copied on this letter sent via email, as well as the following organizations and individuals. Troy High School administrators, Misters Will Minster, Sanjay Berg. Troy High School PTSA President Kim Cusick. PTSA Executive Board members Dan Kuykendall, Ann Senek, Susie Kim, Susan Reese, Emily Wallace, and Heidi Kim. Troy Support Organization President Kathy Kubo, Board of Directors Ann Senek, Sandy Mulady, Cindy Cow, Jenny Hamilton, Nimi Richards, Superintendent Scambray, and Dr. Jennifer Williams. Martin Blaine, PhD, Columbia University. Orange County Board of Education Trustee Robert Hammond. There's a critical disconnect between the parties working to bring wireless radiation into our school and what the scientists and scientists are telling us. This is unacceptable. In the letter, I asked for an acknowledgement of receipt of this information from Mr. Knowles. I have not heard back from him. I am submitting a copy of this letter into the meeting minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
And yet here they state that weapons are not permitted on school property. Now, the fact of the matter is that Chromebooks are a weapon, folks. Chromebooks and iPads and wireless devices are a weapon.
And I'm here to say that that's not acceptable. That we're pointing out something that's very, very important, the health of our children. And we provide these studies, and this body, a couple of years ago, under the old superintendent, was going to wire, had all the plans going forward to wire the schools. And then change of administration, and all of a sudden now you're going back to wireless. And you can accomplish what you need to accomplish with a wired, safe system. And I cannot understand how all of you people, all the board members who went out of your way to run for election to represent us, think it's okay to ignore us.
Protect our children. And I'm all emotional because it makes me sad, and I know you guys are parents, many of you. It makes me sad that you're not listening and take action on this. All right? And that's why the ordinary people like us want to run and do something, because you're not listening to us. What is it going to take? What is it going to take? I have an article here, and you heard it, about what a rat, they expose it to 900 megahertz of a cell phone radiation, and they did a test, and then what happens is the radiation, it hardens the outside layer of the ovum. And you know that the girls are born with all the eggs we're going to have in the rest of our lifetime. And it hardens it, the shell. It hardens the outside. So it makes the sperm penetration more difficult. If that isn't increasing infertility, what is? What is? Our infertility rates are skyrocketing. Okay, our health, our children are diminishing. Our children have diabetes. They're obese. Why? Are we not going to pay attention?
And yet here they state that weapons are not permitted on school property. Now, the fact of the matter is that Chromebooks are a weapon, folks. Chromebooks and iPads and wireless devices are a weapon. The elephant in the room is microwave emissions. Microwave emissions are a weapon. I've alleged, and I will continue to allege, that it's an intentional attack on fertility. I don't know what your political bend is. I know most of you are liberals, but I do know that when I listen to talk radio, and even today on Mark Levin, they were talking about population reduction, and there were people actually saying how wonderful it is and how they're going to incentivize the financial and the tax code to penalize people that have children and to reward people that don't. Because they tell us that we're overpopulated, there's not enough resources. And when I go into an airplane terminal at an airport, and I get ready to look out the window once we get up about 20,000 to 30,000 feet, and I look outside, I do see the fact that 95% of the United States is rural open space. And that is verified by the Census Bureau. So there's not an issue with overpopulation, there's an issue with control. I'm here to tell you once again, and I'll repeat this over and over again, the school districts are the enforcement arm of the eugenics agendas. These Chromebooks are weapons. You may look at them as toys, you may look at them as tools, you may look at them as something that will be beneficial to the children, but I can tell you right now there are no Ethernet ports on these by design. And microwave emissions do not belong in a classroom. With these technology infrastructure upgrades, you should be hardwiring all the way to the desks.
It isn't that much more money. And I urge you to do that and do not pass this piggyback agreement and get away from these Chromebooks and go to hardwired devices. Thank you.
1 in 12 male rats develop malignant brain tumors or malignant heart tumors or precancerous lesions.
And the purpose of these being deployed in the classrooms is to harm the children. Microwave emissions are a weapon. Microwave devices in the hands of children trapped in a classroom with no windows, with no fresh air, under fluorescent lighting, is a weaponized system. All of you education doctors are probably going to need a doctor if you continue to play with these wireless gadgets like they're toys, because they're not. I'd like to present some studies here to Mr. Atkinson. I'd like to enter that into the public record as well. My contention with wireless technology has always been, aside from cancer, is reproductive harm. Now, the studies are few, but they do exist. And the reality is, if you take the same frequency, the same power level, the same pulse modulation, the same SAR rating, the same power, with a fraction of the exposure time, and you do that to a rat, but when you have a microwave transmitter on these rats' abdomens, there are significant decreases in their ovarian reserves. That is basically infertility in the making. And yet here they state that weapons are not permitted on school property. Now, the fact of the matter is that Chromebooks are a weapon, folks. Chromebooks and iPads and wireless devices are a weapon. One of the studies that you've been presented with is 15 minutes a day for 2 weeks on the abdomen, 50% reduction in ovarian reserves in these rats. I've always alleged that this is intentional and that you're going along for the ride. I'm here to tell you that for the past 3 years, we've been coming to these meetings, and we're not going to stop coming. We're going to keep presenting this stuff and holding all of you accountable. Because the bottom line is the science is there, the information is there. And yet here they state that weapons are not permitted on school property. The VTA has ignored formal written demands. Beverly Berryman's kicked this thing around for months, waiting for a response from legal. This isn't a joke. I'm here to tell you, folks, that our children are in harm's way. And this is a very serious problem. This school district had an opportunity 2.5 years ago when I told Dr. Williams that she had a world-class opportunity to do the right thing and hardwire these classrooms and go with Ethernet connectivity to these devices. What I'd like to see all of you do, as it is incumbent upon you as educators, principals, board members, and administrative staff of the school district, is it's well within your purview to also, in addition to everything I've alleged and presented, start informing children not to keep these cell phones in their bras, because women are getting breast cancer from keeping them in their bras. Have these children not sleep with these things as alarm clocks under their pillows. People are getting brain tumors from cell phones. I don't care if you don't want to believe it, it's happening. The Italian Supreme Court ruled that they cause brain tumors. The stuff is not a toy. We should not be keeping laptops in direct proximity to our reproductive organs, especially in young children. I can't begin to tell you how horrified I am with what's going on in the Fullerton School District, where the superintendent continues to put pictures on his Facebook page of children putting iPads on their laps while they're at school. I think I've said enough for now. Just urge you to do the right thing. We're in very precarious times. You're in the crosshairs of an agenda, and I hope you'll wake up to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McGraw.
The fluorescent lighting systems have been linked to all kinds of endocrine cancers.
You stop to realize that life on this earth has evolved under natural outdoor sunlight, but as we become more civilized, we've moved indoors behind glass, window glass that stops the ultraviolet part of the sunlight, and eyeglasses, automobile windshields. They're all cutting out that important part of the spectrum. And different colored lights, not only artificial lights, but different tinted contact lenses and deeper colored sunglasses are drastically affecting the light that is entering the eye, that is controlling body chemistry.
The Environmental Health and Light Research Institute, founded by Dr. Ott, has funded numerous studies on the effects of artificial light on animals and humans. One study centered on school children and classroom lighting. John Ott explains.
Time-lapse cameras were used in a standard first-grade classroom, and several hyperactive children may be noted, especially the boy in the immediate foreground. 90 days after, the regular cool white fluorescent tubes were replaced with the new type full-spectrum fluorescent tubes with radiation shields, there was a marked improvement noted, and the extremely hyperactive boy has voluntarily moved up to the front row. He raises his hand for recognition and is now up at the blackboard taking part in classroom activities. Prior to the time that this new lighting was installed, this particular boy had an extreme learning disability problem, but quickly learned to read within 90 days after the new lights were installed.
I'm not just going to talk about wireless, because I'll tell you, folks, there's a lot more going on than just these emissions, okay? We've got issues with lighting, we've got issues with air conditioning, and we've got issues with water quality. These kids are drinking out of pipes with lead flux oozing out of them. We don't have any water filtration for the students, but I'm sure you all got sparklets in the office.
You don't think there's any chance of any sunlight getting into this classroom, do you? Or these over here? Nothing like compact fluorescent lighting in a room with no windows. Wi-Fi access points, microwaving the students.
The poultry industry found that chickens living under full spectrum light had dramatic improvements over their counterparts living under common artificial light. They not only lived twice as long, but produced significantly more eggs. In addition, the chickens were calmer, attacked each other less, and their eggs were lower in cholesterol. Perhaps the most frightening study conducted centered on the lifespan of mice raised under various lighting conditions. This spectrum chart illustrates the range of light wavelengths from ultraviolet through the visible spectrum to infrared. Natural daylight is charted here, running fairly evenly throughout the visible spectrum and dropping off sharply in the ultraviolet. Mice raised under the pink fluorescent tubes covering this narrow wavelength of light only lived an average of 7.5 months. Mice living under daylight white fluorescence lived an average of 8.2 months. Under full spectrum plastic, which blocks very little natural daylight, the mice lived an average of 15.6 months. And finally, mice living under natural outdoor daylight lived an average of 16.1 months, almost twice as long as their counterparts under the limited spectrum fluorescence.
All kinds of problems, and yet the children are forced to be under fluorescent lighting in the absence of daylight, intentionally designed by these school district officials. Daylight's not allowed in these classrooms. Now, years ago, you could see these windows. They had openings for daylight. They've been painted over. This is all part of the agenda to deprive these children of vitamin D and the life-giving energy from the sun. Weapons are being allowed on school property by the school district, ladies and gentlemen. The weapons are allowed on the school property because they are being provided by the district employees and they're being operated by the teachers. They are the Chromebooks. Chromebooks are a weapon. Screen time addiction is a serious problem in children. Screens have no place in the educational system, folks. There are all kinds of studies that show pencil and paper and books are far better for learning than computers. There are all kinds of studies that show that daylight in a classroom is far more beneficial to learning than no daylight. And yet we have a weaponized classroom on our hands. Wireless emissions are a weaponized classroom. Look what is on the door to this classroom, folks. La Habra High School. Room 133. Can't make this stuff up. Ruckus access point inside this room, industrial strength design for 100